going back to the beginning. They become new by going back to their origin.
Although the great superheroes have always retained their basic essence, their appearance has changed radically over the years to suit the current era. For instance, Batman as drawn by Bob Kane or Dick Sprang was followed by Carmine Infantino's version before Neil Adams took over in the 70s. The character has since appeared in versions by Frank Miller, Brian Boland, and dozens of others.
I think the best of the comic characters, Superman, Batman, Captain Marvel, there is something archetypal about them that I think is so robust that it will withstand all kinds of hard treatment or different treatment. And certainly, I mean, it's given me a great thrill to be able to draw the adventures and occasionally write the adventures of characters I loved when I was a kid. It's a little bit like having a play with somebody else's toys. You think, wow, there's that really cool Superman toy, you know, I can make him do this, and here he is talking to Lois Lane, and you know, or to write the Joker, for instance, it's just a wonderful opportunity. And certainly, I've never had a dream about Superman or Batman, but I almost feel like, in a dreamlike way, that I know them, or I have met them, or I would recognise them. That when you come to write Superman or Batman, you know what they would say, or you know how they would behave, or you'll come up with something and you think, no, Superman would never do that. You know, they actually have taken on an existence of their own.
I'm a woman.
Sorry. Gotta fly!
Meow.
It's a tricky question when you're talking about characters that different generations have grown up with, and yet that are owned by a large corporation. You can come in and you can do a truly terrific story with Batman, and yet the company owns it. If you're okay with that, that's a great way to work. You know, there have been generations of comic book writers and illustrators and animators who are just dying for their chance at bat. I want to come up and I want to do Superman. I've got the Superman story that I am dying to tell. Or I've got the Joker story or the Aquaman story or whoever. And that's great. If you want to come in and work under those terms, welcome to have you, you know, and come on in. But you know, there is the downside that comics sort of moves on. You can join the circus for a while, but the circus tends to move on, and either you move with it or it moves on without you. And at the end of the day, I know that as much as I like Batman or any of the characters in his world, in fact, some of the characters I've created for his world, at the end of the day, I have to kind of say bye-bye, you know, and go back to my own characters because I don't own these guys. I just, you know, come in, have fun, and send them on their way.
Beyond everything else, it's a business. What we're in is, the comic book business is a business. And in order to keep the readers interested and wanting to read the material, you have to give them new stuff. I think that the whole heart of the reader who picks up a comic books is to see something different, to read something different that's occurring. If they come to know what to expect from story to story, then you've just lost a reader. So in changing and putting another artist on it, gives a little bit of a different variation on the character, to give him a different kind of story. Let him die, let him come up, let him be reborn again, let him fly, let him have worse Achilles heels, let him turn into you. Anything to make it different from what it was before. And that's what their attempt is. And I think that's what we have to do as a business.
Telling the story is a different skill than drawing, per se. And so when we lay out stories, when I lay out a story, you want to create something that looks exciting but is not confusing, something that looks dynamic but is not overly dressed up. In the old days, they had a fairly typical way of telling a story, 3 tiers, maybe 2 to 3 panels per tier, so you'd have a total of 6, 7 panels a page, and then maybe at 1 splash page, and they would just do this very regularly. And I think in the 70s, with the advent of the counterculture, or there's more dynamic things in graphics and advertising and illustration, you start seeing people change things. Hands coming out of borders, 3 panels going straight up and down. No longer 3 tiers, panels at angles. Characters being reflected in doorknobs, stories being told where you'd see a building through a reflection of an eyeglass instead of a drawing of the building per se. So, and then you add on top of that in the 80s, the influence of MTV and our understanding of how stories are told. It can all change. You see something like Natural Born Killers, and you see Gone with the Wind. It's completely different techniques. But today's kids and readers are more sophisticated because they've grown up on MTV. They've seen these kinds of movies. And so in comics, it reflects that because we're all part of society. So you see a lot of different things going on that you didn't see before.
Don't you people ever die?
Superheroes are a phenomenon in our culture. First of all, they're good characters just for movies because we're always looking for an original and a different way to make action movies. And that also makes it very difficult because the fans, they see those superheroes in their minds. It was a comic, it was a cartoon, and now it's a movie. So now you can't have a character running around in yellow and blue spandex because it doesn't make sense. It's going to be funny. So we dress them in black so they're camouflaged, by the night, by the darkness, and explain it to the fans why we're going to do that, so that they'll allow us to do that. The strength of X-Men is that it has been around for 35 years. So we have an older fan base who grew up with the comic and a younger fan base that is just discovering it today. Mutants, X-Men, are outsiders and very much misunderstood. It's all about prejudice, yes. I mean, X-Men, you know, the world fears and hates them. So there's an accessibility to these characters. When the X-Men come of age, when they go through puberty, that's when their powers are evident. And it's very hard as a child going through puberty because suddenly your body, you're doing things that you don't understand. Same thing with the mutants. Suddenly they go like that and lightning comes out and it's hard to understand it. So they're very identifiable.
We need to talk. You see, you and I have something in common. Batman. To destroy Batman, we must first turn him into what he hates the most. Namely, us.
Maybe this isn't a good time to mention this, but my license has expired.
There's no question that all the terrifically gifted visual directors, Spielberg, Lucas, Burton, pay homage to comics.